Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Nick Padone, Chris McNeil, and we've got plenty to talk about from the weekend, fellas. Buckeyes hired Jake Diebler. We've got the MAC championship. Oh, man. How about it for Kent State? I'm really sorry, Nick.
Unreal. Couldn't believe that. I was there. I went to the MAC championship kind of last minute when I saw it was Kent versus Akron. Disaster at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for the Flashes.
Reminds you a little bit of J.R. Smith from back in the day and the Cavs. Unfortunately, some bad flashbacks there for us.
I can't believe that's happened to me twice in my life already. I've only been on this earth 25 years, Chris. So the fact that that's happened to me twice already.
Gotta know the time on the clock.
Unreal. And the score. He didn't know the score. How does that happen, man?
Akron advances. Goes to the big dance because of a big mistake there. The MAC's only getting one team. That is the team that goes then.
We'll talk about that, too, a little bit. We're going to get into the brackets later in the show and some bets there.
Plus, guys, I was anxious to get your reactions on this whole Justin Fields situation going to the Steelers. I know it was big on Twitter, so we'll get there, too. And we've got Fill in the Blank, and we've got a really great Garage Beer interview. So stay tuned. Should we take our first break or chat it up a little bit?
Up to you.
I'm a little hoarse because I did too much karaokeing over the weekend.
Too much partying. You were excited. It was St. Patrick's Day over the weekend. You
St.
had the
Patrick's
bracket
Day,
reveal.
too much action.
Yeah. That should be my voice, really, if we're comparing voices about that MAC tournament, man, because I can't believe that happened.
What was the energy like? I've never been to a game like that for the MAC tournament.
Yeah.
Here. What was that like?
I've been to a couple MAC tournaments, and that one was the heaviest Akron Zips crowd that I've heard, especially for Kent Akron. Very heavy Akron crowd, which is surprising. Pretty equidistant between both Kent and Akron to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Definitely a big Akron fan base there, literally from before opening tip. And then at the end of the first half was really entertaining and the crowd got really loud. And then there too, the end of the game where kid makes gigantic mistake, arguably probably the biggest mistake that we saw in conference championship weekend. Crazy. And it was a fun atmosphere for sure. It's awesome that Cleveland gets that event every year.
The beat goes on. I've got all my paperwork here, Nick and Gab. I've got my bracket all laid out. I've done all kinds of research, so I'm all ready for this one. I'm not going to make the same mistakes I've made in the past in my tournament bracket.
And I'll tell you this, Chris, maybe it's me being a hater. I am not betting on the Akron Zips to advance. In fact, I'm doing quite literally the opposite. I'm taking Creighton minus all the points. Give me Creighton to cover 20 points against the Akron Zips. I don't think Akron is that good. I get that they'll be a trendy pick. They have a lot of seniors on that team, which usually makes for a good Cinderella story, but they don't deserve to be there. I'm in hater mode today. I'm not betting on Akron in this tournament.
We'll get a little bit more into this later on, but I've also got Creighton. You got Creighton, which is a little bit more of a finesse team. Akron's going to want to bring you into a slugfest, and they're a very physical team. It's going to be two different styles. I'm with you, Nick. I've got Creighton as well. I don't think they get lured into that slugfest with Akron.
And then what'd you make? Because right before that, as I'm driving to the stadium, the news broke that Justin Fields is being traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for just a 6th round pick, Chris. Conditional 6th.
Twitter immediately lit up. People were saying, well, we could have had him for a 6th round pick then, right?
Yeah.
Like, why did we go for Jameis Winston when you've got the Ohio State Buckeye, kind of the local legend here in Justin Fields that now goes to the Steelers, the hated Steelers there. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. He's there with Russ. You've got a couple of quarterbacks, kind of mid. With Russ on the back end of his career. You got Justin Fields that hasn't proven a whole lot in Chicago yet, but has a lot of upside. You're interested to see what the Steelers do.
And I said it last week on the show, I'm not taking any victory laps yet. If there's one organization that could put this thing together and figure out how to make Russell Wilson and Justin Fields work, it's probably the Pittsburgh Steelers, not to mention they're paying these two guys under $3 million. Kind of hurts when you look at the cap hit of what the Browns are paying a
over
combo
$60 million for
Watson
the Browns,
and Winston.
$4 million or something for the Steelers.
Alrighty, well, I think our Garage Beer featured interview is in here, so we're going to step aside and get you guys John Fanta right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. It is time for our Garage Beer featured interview. Such a fun, lovable, and enthusiastic guy. We're super happy to be joined by a Cleveland native college basketball broadcaster and reporter for Fox Sports, John Fanta. Thanks so much for joining us, and it's so great to see you.
Thank you guys for having me. Happy March Madness. Always love.
Oh, yes.
Always love talking with Clevelanders. It's great to be with you guys.
We're super stoked. We were just looking at Twitter. We had to tweet this about Red Panda, and you were in New York all last week, so you got to see the biggest star of the Big East tournament. What was it like seeing Red Panda up close?
Well, it's unbelievable. I mean, I had the privilege of tossing her the bowls, which I've done now for a couple of years, and I can't believe how good she is. I mean, she's in her late 60s, like she's in her 60s, and she's over 60 years old, and she's doing this routine.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd. It's absurd how good of a halftime act that is. She did not miss. She did not miss at the Garden. It was ridiculous how good she was. She's so kind. She's so humble. She doesn't need to be. But yeah, I mean, for somebody to be over 60 years old, I think she's in her younger 60s. For her to be the best halftime act in basketball or for anything in that matter, she couldn't be a nicer person. And to toss her the bowls was exhilarating. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't the reason why she would screw up, and I stayed out of her way, and she delivered the goods.
That's a lot of pressure. You did well.
As with all great entertainers, too, it's kind of a mystery as to her actual age, because I just went on Wikipedia, and it says she was born in 1970 or 1971. So there is a little bit of mystery there, John.
There is. But the fact that she's doing this at her age,
yeah.
And I actually, this is funny. Last year, I did it with her, and she did not have a very strong day. So immediately I'm reading tweets that people are posting, is Red Panda past her prime? Is it time? Is it time for Red Panda to hang it up, to throw the unicycle in the garage? Is this it for Red Panda? Legacy tweets like we see with Brady and whatnot. And guess what? Red Panda went back in the lab, and she has defeated Father Time.
John, great stuff. What is your last, 24, 48 hours look like? Have you gotten any sleep? Are you drinking any coffee? What is keeping John Fanta alive in this busy, busy week of March Madness?
I am about to order my iced coffee here. I am literally, the moment that we wrap up, that's going to be, you guys are injecting some caffeine into me right now, though. I got to tell you that. I mean, the last 48 hours. So I woke up Saturday morning because I got done late Friday night. So I was able to sleep till about 8:30, just shy of 9 o'clock. Got out of bed, was in New York City. Went over to Columbia University for an 11 a.m. Ivy League tournament semifinal game. Princeton was having a great year. Brown knocked them off, under 500 team. Crazy madness. If you didn't see the highlight on Sunday, Yale.
I saw that Princeton was the 1 seed, weren't they?
They were, and Yale beat Brown at the buzzer to get the bid to the NCAA tournament. So went over to the Ivy League, spent a couple hours there, went back to the hotel, got dressed. Big East Championship pregame show Saturday. Then Saturday night, the game at 6:30. Got done with the tournament, confetti, interviews, all that stuff. Get a little bit of rest. Take a 7 a.m. Amtrak from New York down to Washington, D.C. to call a game at 2 o'clock yesterday. Get done with the game, go to a hotel, cover everything Selection Sunday from there. Might have written about 6,000 words. Did a Spaces and did another hour on the Field of 68. And just took a train back from Washington to Newark, New Jersey, and now I'm back in my house in New Jersey, and I'm putting together 68 faces to watch in this NCAA tournament list. So it is nonstop. It is the best time of year. For us that are involved in college basketball, you live for these 3-4 weeks, and I can't wait for it.
Since you are a big national star now, going back to Ohio and kind of back to your roots, we've got Akron in the tournament. No Cincinnati, no Xavier, no Ohio State. What do you think of your home state right now in college basketball?
Well, I like the move by Ohio State to hire Jake Diebler and give him this opportunity. I think it was the right move. when I talked with Ohio State players earlier this year, all of them were not the players were not bringing up Chris Holtmann. I had to ask about Holtmann when I was doing the Q&A with them. They were bringing up Jake Diebler, and it made me think, like, these guys love Jake Diebler. Like, he'll be a head coach somewhere else. No, he's the head coach now of Ohio State. Smart move, because it's going to be a cheap move. If it doesn't work out, it's not like you have a huge buyout. It makes sense. Ohio hoops. I mean, the MAC final feels so bad for the kid at Kent State for that late foul. Brutal. But for the Mid-American, I think their best chance at winning a game in the NCAA tournament was with Akron. This Akron team has a stud in Enrique Freeman, averaging 19 and 13 per game. Ali's got power conference experience, has come back to Akron, so versatile, a stretch four. You got Greg Tribble, the guard. You've got Sammy Hunter, who helps them out as well. They're balanced offensively. I like the Zips. I think they will hang in with Creighton. I think it's a daunting task to have to face a Creighton team that went to the Elite Eight last year, has Baylor, Shireman, Trey Alexander, a couple All-American candidates. But I expect Akron to hang in with Creighton. I think that John Gross will have a good game plan and will have his team ready to go.
John, you were talking about all this chaos that you've been in and going place to place. I know you have so much fun, but what's the hardest part about doing your job this time of year?
Little regional podcasts is probably the biggest thing, right, John?
How do you stay organized? You got so much going on.
Yeah, you know what? Seeing my wife is one, because it's the easiest thing, but it's also the hardest to make the time and understand time and balance a little bit. But there's just not much balance this time of year. Yeah, you know what? It's when you follow the sport all year, and that's what you do. It's not as hard to, when people are like, "Can you break down this team? Can you break down that team? Can you break down this game?" Well, I'm living it. You see it all throughout the season, so that's not the hard part. And I love joining you guys, and that's not hard either. This is easy. It's just being able to. I have one way of doing things, and this time of year, there's a lot of things coming in, and I always am telling myself, like, I want to make sure that what I'm delivering is on the same level. So that's one of the things that I'm always being conscious of. But it's sleep. It's finding the time to sleep. It's finding the time to remember to drink some water. But you know what? This is one big adrenaline rush. I wouldn't trade this for the world. I do know this in Cleveland. There are people who cover some of the teams in Cleveland, and sometimes I've heard them do radio spots and TV spots, and some of them have said, this is exhausting or it's tiresome. Everyone on this podcast knows who some of them might be. I don't have to name anybody by name. We should relish this. We should look forward to this. There are people out there who care about this stuff. We should never complain of being tired. We're not playing the game. We're not coaching the game. Figure it out. We get to do this for a living. I'm never going to complain about my job. The hardest part is making sure my wife's taken care of. That's quite literally the only thing on my mind.
And that's why everybody loves you.
Yeah.
So when you look at the tournament overall, John, everybody wants to talk about the teams that were snubbed. What do you think about the teams that didn't make it in, who may or may not have had the resume to get in, such as an Indiana State?
Yeah, you know what? The committee did not do a good job with this bracket. I believe that they missed. And I'll tell you why. Virginia, okay? Virginia is in the last four in. They're going to play in Dayton. And they have a net of 54. They accounted for 2 quadrant 1 wins. For those who are not familiar with college basketball as much, that's 2 nice wins to 7 losses. 7. So Virginia, to me, is the comparable to you football fans out there to the AFC South champion this year. And they made the NCAA tournament when Indiana State has just 1 fewer quadrant 1 win. Just 1. 1 and 4. They're They don't have 2, but they also don't get as many opportunities as a Virginia, who plays in the ACC. Indiana State's net is 29. 29. Virginia's is 54, almost double that. You want your net to be a low number, folks. You want to be close to 1. and Indiana State went 27-6. 27-6, 9 road wins. I know they don't play in the ACC. That's not uncommon. That's not uncommon for that to happen. Where the committee did miss is on Seton Hall. They missed the NCAA tournament. They beat UConn. They beat the number 1 overall seed. They beat Marquette, and they went 13-7 in the Big East. 13-7 in college basketball's number 2 conference analytically. The Big East got 3 bids to the NCAA tournament. I believe that they deserved at least 4. I'm not going to sit here and argue beyond that because there were a lot of bid stealers. Keith Dambrod and Duquesne came out of nowhere. By the way, Dambrod, this will be his last season. He's announcing here today, if he hasn't already, that he's retiring. So Keith Dambrod is retiring. So this NCAA tournament will be very emotional. I would not be surprised. I don't know what his schedule is, but I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James tried to make ends meet and get to Keith Dambrod's last game here this week. But Duquesne and NC State and you go right down the line to Oregon, UAB. All these teams were not supposed to be in the NCAA tournament. They made it because they stole bids. So that's part of the madness. It was a wild championship week, but Virginia's resume is hot garbage. They made the NCAA. They made the NCAA tournament because they are Virginia, and the committee values name brands. And Virginia made, and I know that some people roll their eyes at that, but I do think that stuff matters.
We're joined here by John Fanta, the ever entertaining and very informative John Fanta. We're going to take a quick commercial break, John, and we'll be right back. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. We are joined by John Fanta. He is our Garage Beer featured interview of today. Cleveland native, college basketball broadcaster and reporter for Fox Sports. And we were just going over some of the tournament and getting his input about this. And John, we thank you so much for giving us your time because we know you've been so busy and you've been back to back. Who's your favorite double-digit seed to make it into the second weekend?
James Madison.
I like it.
Give me the Dukes. They're 31-3. Now they're in the same pod here with Wisconsin. They're going to play Wisconsin in the first round. I don't love teams that go deep in their conference tournaments in the NCAA tournament. When you're filling out your bracket, I know that this is easy, fans who just watch 1 week of college basketball and then they're ready to go for the NCAA tournament. I get it.
I feel seen right now.
That's McNeil with his little print sheet right here.
That's right.
Yeah, it's okay. I understand. I'm with you. But I encourage you, do not just go off of whether a team won the Big Ten tournament or won the ACC tournament or won the Big 12 tournament. Those teams are playing in their own league. Okay? They know everyone in their own league. It's matchups. Just like this is matchups. So just because a team flourished in their league doesn't mean they're flourishing against a unique team. James Madison is a unique team. 31-3.
31
Terrence
wins.
Edwards, TJ Bickerstaff, really dynamic duo. They defend, and I think they can give Wisconsin some fits. Then in the other side of the pod is Duke and Vermont. Don't sleep on UVM. Balanced offense, very slow tempo. I think Duke will get past them, but I am going with the Dukes to beat the Badgers and Duke to shock the world and be in that Sweet 16. My sleeper pick as well, another double-digit seed to keep on your radar, McNeese or Samford in the Midwest. Kansas banged up, Gonzaga overrated. Either one of those two lower-seeded teams, double-digit seeded teams could pull it off.
Joined by John Fanta here, college basketball broadcaster for Fox. John, we haven't had all 4 number 1 seeds make it to the second weekend since 2019. That's actually kind of crazy.
Yes.
Who, in your estimation, which top team is in the most danger of being upset here this first weekend?
I'm going to say North Carolina because I think that if they get Mississippi State is tough, really good defensively, has a star in Tolu Smith and a guard in Josh Hubbard, and they're not going to be fazed by anyone. They won't be. They lost to Auburn in the SEC tournament, but before that, they beat the brakes off Tennessee by 17.
Yeah.
If it's not Mississippi State, it's a momentum Tom Izzo and Michigan State. And we know one thing, Tom Izzo and Michigan State do understand over the course of his career that you shouldn't doubt him.
Yeah.
So if Carolina's facing them in the second round, that's tough. I would put North Carolina on a little bit of an alert there in regards to the first weekend of being picked off.
Now let's stay in the West there. My brother's going to kill me when I talked about teams from Ohio. I left out Dayton and the Flyers. What do you think about Dayton down there?
Well, Deron Holmes is an All-American, guys. He is a phenomenal player, and their offense is balanced. Kobe Bray, Kobe Elvis. Nate Santos was an elite transfer pickup. I don't love the way that they've played here as the year has gone on. They took a loss to Loyola. It was a tough place to play, but you lose to Duquesne in your conference tournament. Nevada is good. This is a hard draw for Dayton. It really is. And we're going to find out just how good both these teams are, because I think there's a little bit of mystery to them. Nevada's got a kid named Jared Lucas who averages 18 per game, and Keenan Blackshear who averages 15 per game. And to me, when I look at this matchup, as I dive into it, Nevada is a team, they're top 40 in both offense and defense. 36 in KenPom analytically, Dayton at 32. I think the key in the game is going to be whether or not Dayton's defense can come alive and get stops. Dayton is not a great defensive team. So I am slightly concerned about them. I didn't love the draw, admittedly. Never count out the Flyers. Arizona has also struggled in the NCAA tournament under Tommy Lloyd, so it's not the worst 2 seed to get, but they're going to have to contain Lucas and Blackshear. You can't let Nevada get cooking from 3.
Hey, John, which region do you think is the toughest? Has or easiest path to the Final Four?
Well, I think that the toughest region, I'm a little bit contrarian, okay? I don't have the same take as everybody else. But I'm going to go with the South is the most challenging to me.
Wow. A lot of people saying the East right now, and you're saying the South.
I know. And let me tell you about the East in a second here. The South, here's why. Marquette made the Big East championship game without Tyler Kolek and gave UConn a game. I think they're getting disrespected. I don't think a lot of people believe in them, as a 2 seed. I don't know what you're looking at. That team made the Maui Invitational Championship game. I really like this team. And if it's not Marquette, the 3's Kentucky guys. Kentucky, Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, Antonio Reeves should not be messed with. They're legit. Duke has a great backcourt and can catch fire. Early ACC tournament exit could end up being a good thing. I got a couple upset specials there. Florida, to me, is a dark horse as a 7. Florida is playing great basketball. They're not playing like a 7 seed. They made a run to the SEC tournament final. Back to the East. And Chris, I'm glad you bring it up because everybody is saying that.
Yeah.
Well, if March Madness has taught us something, it's that when everyone says something, it ain't the truth.
Go the opposite way.
I'm going the opposite way. Why am I going the opposite way? I still don't trust Iowa State offensively enough in the NCAA tournament. I thought they were a good match. Houston is a good matchup for Iowa State. Iowa State's a bad matchup for Houston. And it got exposed in the championship game. Illinois, great offensive team. Terrence Shannon has been ridiculous. But how many times do they need Shannon to score 30-plus points? At some point, somebody's going to slow him down. Somebody's going to. Okay? If it's not him. So Auburn got screwed. Auburn's top 5 in analytics and got a 4 seed? What are we doing? Committee, you screwed up. If I'm UConn, I'm not happy about that. That's the one that I have a gripe with. But here's the deal. Everybody's talking about the East. Like, Tennessee's a better team than Iowa State, in my humble opinion. In my humble opinion. Wow. And they're on the 2 line.
Yep.
If we look at some of the other 3s, like Baylor, I don't trust. Creighton's a better team than Illinois, in my humble opinion. Kentucky, their upside scares me more than Illinois, even though Cal has struggled in the tournament. UConn is so overwhelmingly good, guys. And when people are like, tough draw, Connecticut's going to be playing these second weekend games in Boston. They're home games. If you heard the Garden over the weekend during the Big East tournament, it was UConn home games. So I don't subscribe to this East region is the region of death. I think that Nebraska and A&M both could give Houston a run for their money. I think Houston, losing in the Big 12 final, I want to see how they respond. And I really like the way that Marquette, Kentucky, and company can play in that region. So I'm going to be a little contrarian and say the South.
Love it.
That's fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
What a breakdown. And you're doing this without any notes in front of you, it looks like. This is just all off the top of your head.
I appreciate it. I got my bracket opened up on my laptop, admittedly, but I'm ready to go here. There's no turning back. This is March Madness.
He knows his stuff.
John, I got 5 sheets in front of me just to try and keep up with you. You're amazing.
I appreciate you guys.
What is John's Final Four prediction?
Yep, I've got Connecticut. I think they're the best team in the sport. I've got Arizona.
Wow.
I've got Tennessee.
Tennessee finally proving it.
That's
the proving ground. Everybody's been asking, when are they going to show up? They always show up, flame out. This is going to be the year, huh, John?
Yep. So I have a 1, a pair of 2s. I feel bad not picking an absolute wild card, but I will go with Houston because I think that the Big 12 championship game loss is a good thing for their team.
Okay.
Allows them to refocus. I really like teams that lose in their conference tournament in the NCAAs. I think losing in your league tournament, taking a loss is a good thing for your group in the NCAAs. I don't like teams that ride in a high like, we won this. We won the Big 10 tournament. We won the Big 12 tournament. No, it doesn't. On Thursday when the ball is tipped, it doesn't matter. Last time I checked in one shining moment, do they show you winning the conference tournament? No, they don't.
So there you go.
I love that analysis. That's true.
No problem, right?
Should have put Kent State in. I agree with John. Committee missed it there. John, appreciate you joining the show. Tell everybody where they can follow along with you throughout all the mayhem of this week and into the weekend.
At John_Fanta, JOHN_Fanta on X, on Instagram. John Fanta, just my name on TikTok. We got it all going on. FoxSports.com, at CBB on Fox. I'll have content there. I'll have interviews there. I'll have reports there. I'll be in Brooklyn. I'll be at the Barclays Center. I will be on hand for UConn, for Florida Atlantic and Northwestern, for Duke and Vermont, and for Wisconsin and James Madison Friday. Thursday, I'm watching the whole day from home because I don't want to miss any second of any of the action. Friday, I'll go to site. Sunday, I'll be on site. I'm ready, guys. I'm ready for the madness. A pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much. By the way, congratulations. You mentioned seeing your wife. Didn't you get married within the last year?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
We got married
I just, not to be a creep, but I was going through my brain and I was like, I know I saw on Twitter or X or Instagram that was a relatively recent thing. So congratulations.
Thank you, guys. And I end every interview with Cleveland sports with this.
John Fanta, we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. I'm Gabriella Cruz. We were just joined by the very amazing John Fanta.
If you weren't pumped
Fox
up for
Sports.
March Madness,
I know.
you are now pumped up for March Madness. He gave us so much to talk about, so much to think about as we're filling out these brackets this week, things to look for in these opening round games. It's going to be a fun tournament, and he really brings that energy. And he also wasn't scared to put, all of the people who selected the brackets, the committee,
on blast.
To put them on notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? You could never feel more unprepared for your bracket after listening to him for a little bit.
I could have all
saw
the
you
notes
over
in
there.
the world. I could have all the notes in the world. It wouldn't matter. I'm not going to touch
McNeil was
his,
like,
his level of knowledge when it comes to college basketball. Just fantastic.
So great, so fun. Let's get to a little bit of fill in the blank, fellas. Mike Vrabel joining the Browns is
pretty crazy. Nobody really saw that coming, Chris.
No, another big football brain in the room, which is always good to see. You do have some people who are kind of sarcastic and such on Twitter saying maybe he's a coach in waiting. I hope not. Not for Kevin Stefanski, and also not for Ohio State. They're saying it's not too far away. I don't think he's going to be making that trip. I don't think he's going back to college, first of all, because he doesn't really want to recruit. But I think it's a really good move for the Browns. It's always good to get more football guys into that building, into Berea, people that understand the game and who have some great experience.
I am definitely excited about it, Chris. I think I'd be a little bit more excited about it if that Kevin Stefanski extension had already happened. I don't know what really is the holdup on extending now the two-time coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. And that just makes you wonder, because we actually saw this exact situation play out with another Jimmy Haslam-owned team this calendar year. That's the Milwaukee Bucks, where Doc Rivers was working as a consultant behind Adrian Griffin. Adrian Griffin, halfway through the season, was dismissed. Doc Rivers, the consultant, takes over as the new head coach. I think there's a lot of pressure on these Cleveland Browns to win, and win early this year. That's on Kevin Stefanski, on Deshaun Watson, and that's the situation that they're in. I want to see that Kevin Stefanski extension news come down very soon, Chris, because that'll at least give them a little bit of a security blanket. But I think it's funny that we just saw this unfold with the Milwaukee Bucks, and I hope it's not a precursor of what's going to happen here this fall in Cleveland.
moves have been made over the course of free agency. My favorite Browns free agency move has been
retaining Zadarius Smith.
I was going to say that.
I really like that. I think he's solidified that opposite end to Myles Garrett. We've had some turmoil over there before with Jadeveon Clowney and whether he was a fit. Now it looks like we do have a fit. It's nice to have that continuity going into another year with Jim Schwartz.
What do you think, Nick?
I'm going to go ahead and say that my favorite move actually happened before free agency, and that's the Jerry Jeudy thing. I know everybody is talking about him as a big-time reclamation project, and that gets thrown around, a fresh change of scenery anytime a young player goes to a new team. I think it's particularly true with Jerry Jeudy. And when you listen to his introductory press conference, guys, he seemed genuinely excited to be a member of this Cleveland Browns organization. I think he adds a level of security for Deshaun Watson rehabbing back from that shoulder, because last year that Browns receiving core outside of Amari Cooper and David Njoku really wasn't that great at all. So I think Jerry Jeudy automatically is an upgrade. If he could be better than what we saw him be in Denver, we're in for a treat, because he was all right in Denver with a bad Broncos team.
Yeah.
All right, specific player or position group, I would still like to see the Browns sign.
Well, I always like to have some depth on the offensive line, so I wouldn't mind. It's an aging crew now. I mean, we're so used to this crew being so good for now several years. We've lost our coach there with Bill Callahan, and now I would like to have a couple of more plug-and-play players down along the line. But that's what's nice about the team is right now I think we're in a position where you can do that tinkering type of things, really start to work on depth with this team, and I think the offensive line is a good place to start.
If I know anything about Andrew Berry, he's always looking to add secondary help. Corners, whether that's a veteran that's out there still in free agency that could be on an inexpensive contract, or through the NFL draft. We know, Chris, you and I have both heard this weekend through pretty reliable sources that there is a little bit of truth to some of these Greg Newsome trade rumors that you guys have seen. Teams are definitely interested in him. Does that mean for sure that the Browns make a move and move off of him right now? I'm not sure. But in the event that they do, say they are blown away by a Greg Newsome trade offer, that's a guy that you got to replace. And you got to keep stacking depth at that position too, similarly to the O-line. So I wouldn't hate to see them bring in a vet or look to the draft for a rookie in that spot, especially because I think there's something to all this Greg Newsome chatter.
Yeah, it kind of caught Twitter on fire this week when I mentioned there was talk of Greg Newsome going to Washington for a 4th-round pick. A lot of people saying that he was worth more than a 4th-round pick and that we would be completely getting housed in a trade like that. So be watching. There's definitely chatter around him in the market.
For sure.
Interesting. And I saw that David Njoku will now be hosting the celebrity softball game instead of Newsome. I don't know if that's a foreshadowing or not. What do you think?
Conspiracy theories abound right now.
Not sure. I mean, I love the guy. I'd like to see him stay, and I want to see him grow. But, hey, let's take one, well, not one more, but we got to take another break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Chris McNeil, Nick Padone. We were just doing a little bit of our fill in the blank, if you will. And let's continue here. The biggest surprise in free agency has been, obviously, you know, we got Winston over Flacco. And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Justin Fields to the Steelers situation.
Yeah, and I think that would be it for me. I did not see Justin Fields going to the Steelers, and I certainly didn't see him going for a 6th-round pick. I thought it would be more in terms of compensation. And it seems like, at least at this point, they're saying, hey, Russell Wilson is our guy. He's going to back him up. And so they've got it set. Now, we know what happens when they get to training camp, and all of a sudden you start to see position battles. I'm sure that if Justin Fields starts out playing Russ, there's going to be fans that are calling for him there in Steelers land. It's nice to see them be the ones that are dealing with QB controversy that they're kind of creating themselves right now. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have Justin Fields here in Cleveland, Nick.
It would have been very nice. You know, when you look at this Deshaun Watson thing, I've talked about it on this show before. It's going to be interesting to see how he returns from this injury, guys. And I think that's a big reason why we've seen the Browns make the moves that they've made, you know, adding proven veterans like Jameis Winston, like Tyler Snoop Huntley the other day from the Baltimore Ravens, who has given the Browns fits. I would have loved to see them add Justin Fields, especially at that price of a conditional 6th-round pick. Take a look at the 2025 NFL draft and the amount of 6th-rounders that the Browns have. They currently have like 4 6th-round picks in 2025 anyways. It would have been cool to see them be involved in that hype for Justin Fields because he definitely could have been a solid insurance policy if things do go south with QB1 here in town.
All right, we're switching gears here a little bit, but running backs coach Tony Alford leaving Ohio State for Michigan is
treason. That's treasonous. Come on. You can't go from Ohio State up to Michigan. You can't do that. Woody Hayes right now is rolling over in his grave. That can't happen. I understand he was one of the few coaches that weren't extended when Ryan Day was extending his whole staff. So there was some writing on the wall there. But still, to go from Ohio State to Michigan, come on, you can't have that happen, Nick.
Tony Alford or Tony Arnold, like Benedict Arnold, because this guy, absolute traitor mode. I couldn't believe to see that. And then it was awesome to see, you know, some of the reactions from Buckeye Nation, whether that be current players, former players. Nobody was jiving with that move at all. And usually you see when guys move on, you know, a lot of support, a lot of well wishes. Yeah. Not the case here with Tony Arnold.
All right, that'll do it for our big play. Fill in the blank. We do have the bets coming up, though, right, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's take our final break of the show. We'll be back with some of those big play bets.
Our big play bets on the show this week and every week are always presented to you guys by our friends over at Tipico Sportsbook. If you haven't already, download Tipico Sportsbook now. When you do, use that promo code Cleveland100. You could scan the QR code on your screen as well. That's going to get you $100 of bets on Tipico when you make that first $25 bet. And Tipico Sportsbook is currently changing the way you bet with Tipico Cashback Rewards. This is where they're giving all users up to 5% cash back on every single bet that you make. This is no bonus bets, none of that funny work. This is actual withdrawable cash. So download Tipico Sportsbook now, check out Tipico Cashback Rewards, and use that promo code Cleveland100. Guys, it was awesome hearing from John Fanta earlier in the show, getting through some of this college basketball stuff. But who is our Final Four predictions is the question. Chris, I'll start with you. Who do you got in your Final Four?
Well, John and I agree on the number one, and that's UConn. I think UConn's going to get there to the Final Four. I also have UNC. I got Kentucky, so you got some blue bloods there. And I'm going to throw in Creighton as well. I think Creighton, I like their outside shooting. I like their offense. They're going to beat Akron in the first round. They're going to continue on to the Final Four. So that's my four.
My pettiness also put Creighton into the Final Four as a wild card. I like that, kind of throwing that one out there. I also have Kentucky. I also have UConn. Wow. The only one where I'm a little bit different, I have Arizona.
Okay.
Give me Zona there. Yep, kind of making some noise there. All right, let's keep moving on. Chris, on Thursday, give me one double-digit seed that wins on Thursday. Who's pulling an upset?
I'm going to be quick. I'm going to give you two. I've got Oregon. They've made 9 straight tournaments. They're an 11 seed. I know it's a bad Pac-12, but I can see them beating South Carolina. South Carolina lost by 31 to Auburn, so I like Oregon to do the upset there. I also have Drake. Love the Drake. Drake is a 10 seed over Washington State. They blew out Akron by 20 this season. I like Drake over Washington State.
I like Drake over Washington on my bracket as well. I also have Duquesne, Chris. It was cool hearing that comment from John that, this is it for Keith Dambrot. And maybe LeBron does show up to this first round matchup.
Coach went on to Akron. And now is over there at Duquesne, and this is his last ride, his last dance.
Kind of sad to see his last dance, as a LeBron fan, LeBron historians. I feel like we all are here in Cleveland, especially seeing his old high school coach move on from the game of basketball. So I'll have Duquesne. That'd be a fun story to see them keep up. All right, how about Friday? I need another upset from you.
Well, John Fanta kind of stole my thunder a little bit on this one. It's good to hear that I'm on the same page. James Madison, 31 wins, tied for the most in college basketball with UConn. And that's pretty good company right there. I think I could see them upsetting Wisconsin, even though Wisconsin gave Illini a run in the conference tournament. But as John Fanta said, ignore the conference tournament. Yep. That's what I'm doing right now, James Madison.
I like that one a lot as well, Chris. Man, we're picking a lot of similar ones here. I'm going to go with something different, though. I'll go with New Mexico over Clemson.
Pitino.
Richard Pitino. Now, Rick Pitino is making a ton of news because he refused the NIT.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and go with New Mexico. We'll go with slick Richard Pitino to move on against the Clemson Tigers. Chris, how you feeling? Will either Ohio team win on Thursday? You got your Dayton Flyers in there. You got the Akron Zips in there. I'm not feeling great after hearing what John said about either two Ohio teams.
Yeah, I think Creighton's going to roll over Akron. I do think Dayton's going to win. I think that's going to be a slugfest. I could see Dayton, though, pulling it out over Nevada. They're the 7 seed versus the 10 seed. Go Flyers. That one's for my brother.
Man, what a show, packed show. Your thoughts, Chris, real quick as we wrap up, too. He hit a little bit on it of Jake Diebler.
Yeah.
Because you called that.
Yeah, and I called it several weeks ago, even before he made some of the run that he did. He beats Purdue. I think he's a local guy. One of the things that Thad Matta did very well when he was on his run with Ohio State was recruiting Ohio well. This gives us that continuity here in Ohio for recruiting and also from, an X's and O's standpoint at the head coaching position. So I like the hire. I think Jake Diebler is going to do well. And if he doesn't, like John Fanta said, hey, it's a low-cost hire, and we can go out and swing for the fences in our next hire at the position.
Absolutely pumped for this weekend. Download Tipico Sportsbook now with promo code Cleveland100 so you could get in on all the Tipico tourney mayhem with us. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Big Play Cleveland Show, and we'll do it all again next week.